everybody, welcome. I'm here with Danielle Brazant today, and she is a speaker, and she is going to talk about organic marketing and how she grows her business with her strategies. She's a lot into copywriting and website. So we are super happy to have you on, Danielle. Please give us an introduction, tell us a little about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for having me as a guest tonight. It's a pleasure. I've done, like I was telling you earlier, I've done about a dozen podcast appearances this year. So this is something that I'm growing my business by and experiencing. And it's a pleasure every time. And I get to meet wonderful people like yourself. My story begins in the year 2012. That year, I suffered a near fatal car accident. In that experience, I had to retrace the pathways of childhood. I had to relearn how to walk, chew solid food, read, everything. Everything started from scratch. And where my old life ended, something new began. And from that experience, that is what led me to where I am today. After that, I wanted a life that had purpose and meaning. And I decided to become a speaker. And I wrote my book, Maximizing Your Potential: How to Start the Journey Towards True Happiness in Life, about that experience and about my decision to become a speaker and inspire people after that, just the same way I had been inspired during that difficult process, very painful, very difficult. At one point, I became suicidal. And hearing people's stories of triumph and how they overcame is what allowed me to fight for my dreams again and discover that, there could be hope, because the darkest place somebody can ever find themselves is in a place where they feel there's no hope. And that is where I was. And I started fighting for my dreams. And I just want to end with how I lay it out in my book. Happiness, true happiness, is a journey. It's a journey of self-discovery. And it starts with achieving a goal, then finding a passion. After that, you discover your dream, and you chase those dreams for the rest of your life.
Oh, that made me a little teary. Thanks for sharing. So tell us what happened with building this beautiful dream. Give us the steps that you took to get to where you are now.
Well, the steps, yes. I decided I wanted to be a speaker, and this was 10 years ago when I made that decision. It is not an overnight process. Success, true happiness requires a lot of perseverance. And I think that's not something a lot of people realize at first when they just idea or decide that they're going to do this. And, ooh, there's no such thing as an overnight success. That is a myth of pop culture. True success and happiness requires a lot of perseverance. It means making a goal, making a decision, and then fighting for it and choosing to build upon it every single day. So 10 years ago, I made the decision, a speaker, and I had to write my book, support myself while I was writing the book. And it was a job that I didn't really like all that much. But once again, my parents were a little bit old school. They raised us like, you have to earn the right to be happy. You don't get to be, happiness is not something you get to just experience overnight or just wake up and feel that you have a right to be happy. No, you have to earn that right. And earning the right to be happy, fighting for your dreams requires, like I was saying earlier, a lot of perseverance. It means like being miserable for a lot of times every day and not quitting, just digging in and just committing yourself to something. So I was supporting myself by being a food service manager for about 10 years. I made good money, but it was like long. I did that, wrote my book, and from there I launched my website. And I launched my business officially in 2019, launched my website in 2020, and last year, 2022, is when I started to get my first paid clients and started to take off. And 2023 has been my best year ever. And I'm hoping 2024 will be better than 2023. So I'm starting now to just take off and to reap the rewards of the stuff I started doing 10 years ago. And that is the case for most
Yeah.
success stories. You
Yeah.
just have to stay committed and invest and have that perseverance to get you through the times when things get difficult, the times when you're not happy, where you have to put in the work to build the dream.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, you're so right. Because I, even with ads, people think there's some magic bullet and they start them and they're like, why am I not getting sales? It's like, you got to get like at least 3 months under your belt before we even worry about that. There's a lot of other stuff that goes in. In those years, like what kept you going from 19 to 22 when you started getting those first paid clients?
Take advantage of every opportunity and just seeing where it gets you and just stay committed and don't quit when things get harder. You get nothing.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what kind of steps did you do in those 3 years? Give us some examples of what you were doing to build that business.
So for a speaker and somebody else may not have a speaking business, it's just you have to learn the steps for that business. As a speaker, I subscribe to a lot of podcasts by speaking coaches. And I didn't buy the programs. This is the great thing about the 21st century. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of information that you don't have to pay for if you just invest. I was homeschooled, so I was really good at self education. If you give yourself a good self education, you really don't have to pay for a lot of these things. Once you decide your passion, once you decide the goal that you're shooting for, there's a lot of stuff out there that can teach you how to do it without you having to spend a whole lot of money. It's just a whole lot of time that you have to invest with giving yourself that knowledge. And then I found out, this was back in 2016, 2017, that in order to become a speaker, it would be most helpful to write a book. And the book, from start to finish, I self-published, had the original manuscript stolen from the local library, and had to rewrite it.
Oh, wow.
And then had to teach myself how to do editing. And then I self-published. And that whole process from start to finish probably took it just over a year. And once again, I had to rewrite the book because the manuscript got stolen. So once again, it's just, that's probably the worst day of my life. But I had tears in my eyes as I rewrote page one again. But you have to have that commitment. Like, that's going to get you, because I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I had discovered the steps to doing it was to write a book. And so I was going to write a book. I read the book. After I wrote the book, I launched my website, and then from the website, I started reaching out. So you can't just stay stagnant. You have to be very active. So I started reaching out to conferences, meeting planners, just everybody I could think of that may need a speaker close to my radius. I live in the Midwest, so close to where I'm living. I just reached out to all these organizations that I knew needed speakers and had annual conferences. And from there, I got my first pay, like I said, after I launched my website. About 6 months after I launched my website in 2020, I had my first paid speaking opportunity. And I only spoke virtually because of the pandemic up until 2022. And then I started doing in-person stuff. And then now in 2023, most of my speaking engagements are in person. So it was a pivot. I actually kind of launched my speaking website because I was excited about the virtual speaking opportunities. I'm like, okay, that's something that always held me back because I didn't want to travel. I'm not a travel bug. I don't want to live out of a suitcase. So I don't want to have to be in a different hotel room each and every night, just crisscrossing the world trying to catch it, like running across airports. It's stressful. I did that like last summer and I was exhausted. I don't want to do that all the time. So I was excited about the growth of virtual speaking opportunity, which is why I launched in 2020. I chose to do that because of the pandemic, created a lot of virtual speaking opportunities, and that was exciting for me. So now we've come back, and I once again had to pivot, and most of my engagements now are in person, and I try to keep them close to the Midwest where I live in this area. I think the furthest I'll have to travel next year potentially maybe Florida, I have one engagement and another one in North Carolina. Just still not too far, but I try to limit how far I travel from my home base because I still work full time and I love my job. I love the boss that I work for. So I just want my plan is to keep speaking, have my speaking business and to work. I work in sales and to do that until ultimately my goal in life is to be a US ambassador. And I want to keep my day job till I go into the foreign service and
Oh, wow.
study, become an ambassador. So that's my goal, and I'm sticking to it. Whenever I get a goal, I make it come true. Whenever I get a dream, I make it come true.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit before. So tell me, like, what do you think was the most important to
Mhm.
grow where you're at? Was it the book, or was it the website, or was it the articles? There's quite a lot of stuff you're doing to feed back into that website to get your speaking gigs. So tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about the merits of each like method that you use.
Okay, so if you're gonna develop a business, other creatives, whether you're a writer or a speaker, or you have a business idea, probably the most important thing you need to do is to just develop your marketing plan. This, like I'm always on podcasts, always writing articles because at the end, I'm like, hey, go to daniellebrazant.com and you can see everything that I do and all my speaking and everything that I'm capable of. And you can get a video of and see how that I speak and how I am as a speaker. So this is all my own self-marketing. So you need to develop a good marketing plan, whether it's like through your business, you do a lot of Facebook ads for people. Before people, like we were talking about, before people pay for those ads, they need to put a lot of thought into them and decide how they want to craft them, like what works and what doesn't work. So it's just, there's no easy way to doing it. You can't pay somebody to create something for you. It's your business. You have to discover what works for you, what's the best form of advertisement, and then develop a marketing plan for yourself. So as an individual speaker, I'm lucky I don't have a lot of product, I have a lot of overhead. It's just me, my speaking, my voice, and me talking. It's my business and my product. And me doing this with you, like speaking to audiences, speaking on podcasts, going on television, that is my marketing plan because that's the product that I'm offering. So whatever it is that you're selling, just make sure you know how to market it and market it successfully.
And that's where people mostly don't have any clue. I mean, myself too, before I learned how to do ads, I just rest on my ads, you know, if everything comes through those. These last couple of weeks I've transitioned to more of an attraction style marketing where I'm getting out there and talking to people more,
Yeah.
testing that
Yes.
for a little while to see how that works, you know. But most people have no
Yes.
idea how
And
to
let's
go
talk
about
about
that. Hmm?
Yes, let's talk about that. Like, because I went through the attraction marketing program, the attraction marketing program, and it was revolutionary for me. Like, I've learned a lot, even though like my number one business, I also have another business that I run and I don't talk about. It's just people find me and I'm offering a product and a service that people who are looking for it find me on. And I've been moderately successful with that, just spending no time at all in it.
Very
And I think the only way now really to do a marketing, because it's just we're so saturated with people trying to get our attention. The only marketing that really works is attraction marketing. You gotta find out who it is you're trying to go after, who's your ideal clientele, who it is you want to speak to, who do you want to buy your product, and then go after them and get them to come to you. And
hmm
that's you got to figure out how to do that. So, but you got to you got to find your niche and you got to just go after your ideal client.
Yeah. Well, I know that it's a person because in the beginning I had just ads. I was posting stuff that just wasn't really, I mean, my ads did everything for me. But when I started putting myself out there more, I would get more traction through the little videos of me talking about whatever. And people would be like, oh, cool, and reach out to me a lot more. So it's the personal connection, like what you're saying, like getting out there writing, not necessarily writing articles, but being visible. And that's where my like love of attraction marketing had begun. You know, I can put myself out there, which most of us aren't comfortable with that, right? Most of us aren't comfortable with speaking. It took me quite a learning curve to get used to sitting and being on videos, which is, you know, the podcast came around. I would never have said I'd be on a podcast this time last year. I'd be like, oh no, I hate hearing myself on video. And now every day
Good
I,
for you. Good
you
for
know,
you.
I
Congratulations.
yeah. So there's a lot of pushing
Congratulations.
yourself. Thank you. You got to push yourself, I think, in directions you don't necessarily want to go in for quite a while to test stuff too. And you got to test it for a good while.
Yes, you have to
A
push
lot of
yourself.
people are just
You have to
so
push
quick.
yourself. Definitely, that's preserving, willing to be miserable in order to ultimately find that happiness and ultimately find your dream. And then after you find your dream, you got to make it come true. That's like work. It's dreams don't just come true. Doesn't mean the dream is bad. You still have to put in the work and have that perseverance to make that dream come true after you discover it. That's only half the battle. You then
Yeah.
got to make it come true. And,
I feel like
and
the
I
online,
don't,
oh, sorry.
I, I think, yeah, go ahead. No,
Um,
go ahead. I want to hear you talk. I talk too much.
no,
I'm always hearing myself.
I was going to say, I think the problem I see with the online space is people think there's some kind of magic formula somewhere. Like one of my tutors, my mentors was just talking about it today. Like an average business, when you set it up, most people are, you know, comfortable with the fact it won't draw any profit till year 3, 5. But when you get on the online space, people think they should be making 100 grand within like 5, 6 months and not spending anything. Because a lot of the clients I spoke to, I go, oh, that's too expensive. And I'm like, really? Well, what were
Mm,
you expecting from starting a business? Did you not plan for this? You know, it is expensive. It's less expensive in the online space, but it still takes money. It takes time and it takes working through all those things like trying articles. Okay, they're not driving that much traffic, but you got to try them for a while before you know, because you don't know if that article's good, right? Same with ads. You got to try them for like at least 2 or 3 months before you decide if that's
exactly.
working or not. And that's on any platform. You can't just like throw $200 at it and expect to make 100 grand. This stuff takes work no matter what. And that's like the main
Exactly.
thing.
I feel like
I was just going to say that's the main thing with like beginner entrepreneurs. Like they really don't take that into account.
there are no shortcuts in anything, even if it's an online business or brick and mortar. There's no shortcuts to anything in life. To make anything successful, you have to put in a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of effort and know what you're doing.
Yeah. And sometimes the knowing what you're doing doesn't happen until you failed and done like a, oh my gosh, when I was a photographer, I think I redid the business like 5 times. First, it was this style, and then it was that style. So I literally had 5 different businesses. So technically, I failed 5 times before I figured out that wedding photography worked really well for me. And then this business, the
Yep.
same thing, you know, it was kind of like I bought this business and I knew it worked. But then after a very short while, I was like, I don't like the way it's working. So I had to change it. So it's basically a brand new business as it this last couple of weeks, just kind of how I'm going about stuff with the attraction marketing, new ads, new funnels, just change the whole thing around. So, you know, you have to fail a lot,
Perfect. Beautiful. Beautiful.
right? And people are scared of failure and they do
Walt
too
Disney.
soon. But you didn't. You took like 3 years and you just kept at it and kept at it and you finally grew. Like those 3 years are like that's amazing journey. I'd love you to speak to that a little bit more too. Like tips for the mental stability and conviction to keep going when nothing's happening. Because that's essentially the beginning of business. You do tons of stuff and nothing happens, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, I started my business in 2020 because I knew I was excited about the virtual speaking opportunities. My first paid speaking opportunity was virtual, and it actually came 6 months after I started the business. They found my website and I sent a proposal over, and they hired me to speak at that conference. So I was really happy. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was my first paid speaking, and it was
And funny.
over the moon. And then after that, nothing, like crickets for 8 months, and just you do get, it can get discouraging. But you see, this is the thing. That's why you have to have that perseverance and you have to dig in. And also, I would also advise, don't quit your day job. You have something when you're starting your business, and let until you start earning a consistent profit that will allow you to live at the lifestyle, whatever lifestyle you're wanting or comfortable having. Don't quit your day job and your reliable source of income until you have a business income that is consistently giving you that revenue. Don't just quit overnight. Like you hear these ads and you hear these stories. Oh, I quit my 9 to 5 and I'm working for myself. Yeah, no, don't do that, because that could ruin your business, because you're going to be, when times are tough and when you're first starting out and you don't have that consistent revenue flow, you need something to fall back on. If it's not a spouse income, you need something to fall back on. So don't put that type of stress and pressure on yourself. Have something to fall back on. Don't quit your day job. But because you're not quitting your day job, it means putting in a lot of work, and sometimes working those 14, 16-hour days. And I did that. I remember I would work 10 hours, and then I came home, and then was another 3 to 4 hours of work on my website and sitting out writing speaking proposals. Some days it's still like that for me now, but it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure because I see the hard work. Hard work always pays off in the end if you know what you're doing and you've done your research and you committed and you have that perseverance to make your dream come true. It'll always pay off, but it's hard work in the beginning. And don't quit your day job. That's one that's probably my biggest piece of advice for me when I started my business 3 years ago, and for anybody who's starting their business, have something to fall back on.
Yeah, I think there's two schools of thought with that too, because I kind of had to start my business. I didn't really have a choice. There's some people that were like, oh God, I had this business and I was playing around with it and I had a very busy job, so I didn't focus as much on it. And then it happened that I didn't have a job. So it was like, okay, gotta focus on the business. And it kind of gave me the time to put into it. So there is a catch 20. Not that I'm saying anybody quit their job, but some of us were like, had no choice. And I think that
so
for someone like me who I deal well with pressure.
Sink or swim.
Yeah.
That's good. Sink or swim, and you're a fighter and a winner. You did what you had to do, but I'm just saying, don't put yourself in that spot.
Yeah.
You found yourself in that spot, like life you that hand of cards, and you chose to win with it, and that's wonderful. That's a success story. But don't put yourself in that position, is all I'm saying, because me, I am just too much of a worrier. My anxiety is too bad. I couldn't do that. Like if I was worrying about like where the rent's gonna come, I'm not starting a business. Nope, I could tell that wouldn't work for a person like me. I know that. I would be my own distraction. I couldn't focus, even if I had all the time in the world without a day job to focus on the business. I couldn't if I was worried about how I'm gonna eat. Like, no.
Yeah.
I don't have that. You're a better person than I.
Yeah, well, actually, now you say that, like my sales did take a hit when I was in
But
that.
some people are like that. Some people are just for fun.
Yeah, some people are like that. And those are the people who probably need to put themselves in that position. So, because they won't do it if they don't have to. And I'm a kind of have to person.
Yeah.
But I did, like, there was points like where I was like, oh, my clients were running out, and that really affects your sales. So part of the reason why I didn't want to do the sales method anymore, I didn't like it. I don't like spending 5 hours sitting there waiting for people to not turn up. So this is where the attraction marketing and a new funnel came in. It's like, don't even talk to me unless you want to work with me. So it's kind of, I'm more in the exclusive. I have other things you can buy, like buy my product. If you don't want to hire my services, that's no problem. I've got a product that will teach you to do it. Yeah, so I built that based on that kind of necessity, because when you're speaking to people, if you're stressed out, it's not good. It's not from that place of authenticity and fun and love and that easy place where you sell. So yeah. That kind of
Exactly.
stress does affect businesses. And I find that a lot with new business owners too. Like they're doing a call, like if they're trying to book a call, like I was, but they're stressed out about not making any money and then complaining because the ads aren't working. It's like the ads are working fine, but you're not selling anything. It's not the same thing. So in that circumstance, like
Exactly.
having that backup and not having to have a business that's based around sales while you get
Mhm.
comfortable with that, for sure. So in that scenario, 100% on board. Been there, done that.
So yeah. So that once again, that self-discovery, you have to understand yourself before you put yourself in well enough to know that I couldn't do it. Like, so I wasn't going to put myself in that situation and try to build my business. So probably took a little longer, like 10 years from start to finish for the book, everything, because I was working full time and everything. So 10 years from start to finish to now where my speaking is taking off. It probably took me a little bit longer, but I'm fine with that. I'm 35 now and I'm fine. I didn't have to starve for any of those 10 years. And maybe if I had just put all in and just gone for broke, I would have found success a little bit quicker. But the is it the slow and steady wins the race, and I rather be slow and steady with consistency rather than a shooting star, because a shooting star can also be a falling star. So sometimes quicker isn't always better,
No, you're
but it
right.
probably takes longer.
Absolutely right. That's one of the things like when my clients like, oh, I can't spend that or whatever, and that's okay. But this is your option. Either you do it the long way or you spend and you do it the short way. There's no other way. You know,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
other way at all. And I did it the long way first time around, and then I did it the short, expensive way the second time around. But each one has its merits. Like there was a lot of heart and fulfillment that came from doing it the hard way
There's a
the first
way.
one.
You have
Yeah.
to find a way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the second one was more clinical, more business, more like serious, So it's like, where do you fit into that camp? You either got short and expensive or you got long and a lot of hours. That's it. Is the takeaway from how to build a business. And a lot of people
Yes.
because they don't take either of those factors into mind. I think that's where a lot of people fail because they feel like a failure because things aren't happening in 5 minutes because it's online and it's not working you know? And I see that a lot. It's real heartbreaking. It's like, no, man, I mean, take your
Yeah,
time,
well,
keep at it. It will eventually happen.
yeah, you have to have trust in in what it is you're doing. So if you're not succeeding in 5 minutes and you're doubting yourself already because you don't have enough faith in what it is you're doing. You should have done enough research to start with before you're even going into business with anything. You need to have done enough research to understand what it is you're doing, the timeline, how long it takes for companies in that space to take off. You need to know all that before. And for me, speaking, I knew like what Tony Robbins, it took 25, 30 years. I'm in a long haul industry anyway. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't like speaking is I knew that. So I wasn't scared when I didn't get my first client. I didn't get my second client after 8 months. That didn't scare me. That's why I didn't quit my day job because I knew that it takes time. It is just so much competition with speaking. And most speakers, this is a little helpful hint too. Most speakers aren't speakers. They're other people who speak to sell their product. They're
Mm.
business people. They're politicians, they're actresses, they're just famous athletes. They're just looking for people looking to sell something like book deals or to promote their companies. That's who is mostly in the speaking space. They're not speakers. Like I'm a speaker too. I still have a day job, but most speakers aren't speakers. They're other people who are using speaking to sell something or promote something, or just industry experts like who speak as part of their job. Because like I know the pharmaceutical legal field, they have people who work for all these various firms who are speakers who just travel speaking at the various conferences and events for that industry. So that's going to be your main competition. Like there's so people you're not even thinking of. It's not other speakers because very few people can find success just being a speaker because most speakers are doing other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Tony Robbins, 25 years. The coaching space is the same. It's like when they
Mhm.
want to run ads, it's like we can run ads, but you're a coach. So people need to know, like, trust you, which can be, oh, depending on how much their offer is, 6 months to a year, so handling those objections, up front, it's like you need to run ads if you want to build traffic. If you don't have another method, and it
And if
will
you're
build
going to do
traffic good, but they're not going to buy straight away necessarily. So also knowing
exactly.
what your turnaround time is on buying. Like we just had a boudoir photographer and we were doing really good on the leads, but none of them were buying. But it's a 3 to 6 month turnaround on average for a boudoir photographer. So I'm like, those leads might convert in 3 months. So it looks like, you spent a lot of money now and nothing's happening. But in 3 months, those people that we got in might buy, and then you've tripled, quadrupled your ad spend. It's about knowing that kind of time frame and working with that, especially if you're running ads, because otherwise you think you're throwing money at something and it's
Exactly.
going down the drain. It's not. It's building your empire. It's the foundation of your empire. But it might take a while for actual cash flow to start coming in. And I've seen that a few times.
Yes, ma'am. Doing research, like knowing the space that you're in. It all comes back to that. You got to understand your metrics, who your target market is, like what it is, and just understand just the turnaround time and the market and just the average revenue spent and stuff. You just got to understand your numbers.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't. I think they see something online. They said I could make this much, if I have a dollar for every time I heard that. And I'm like, okay, how?
We'll all be
You have,
billionaires.
yeah, like how? Do you know the how? And they're like, I don't even know. I don't even have a website. I don't even know what a lead is. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. And I struggle with that too. I
And
mean, I
nobody,
didn't do that in my first business either. I'm just a photographer. I didn't do any market research. I didn't know how to. I didn't know what that was. I had no idea. Now I use the ads to do that for my customers. Super easy. I don't have to do anything. Much easier to do it that way and just spend and pay and have that. But, before I knew how to do that, I had no idea. So I think that's very hard for a lot of people, especially when there's so many of these offers. Like you were saying, it took you 10 years, but these guys or whatever that are offering this like magic formula, you'll make X amount in however many times, and they're millionaires at this point. It took them 10 years to become that overnight success. Tony Robbins says it. I've heard that so many times. It's so true. Like
exactly.
this is my second go round.
Oh, yes.
Well, actually, this is my third business. So it took me three failures before, I got to this one. There is no overnight success. It's just keep grinding. You got to keep grinding and
Exactly.
keep going.
Walt Disney, Disney World, like I love the story. He failed like either between bankruptcy and failure 300 times,
Oh, was it
was
300? Wow.
penniless for 300, either bankruptcy, homelessness, either failure. When you combine his failures, his bankruptcies, and his homelessness, his bouts of 100, and then he didn't find success. He could barely afford a meal
Mm,
uh, till he was in his 40s. But he stayed, he knew he had a passion and he had just a dream of animation that he was going to give the world. He didn't give up on it. And see, he has me beat. I'm not even sure if I could have done that because he started writing animation in his teens. So from 18, 19, all the way till he was 47 to where he actually got started making money. So you're talking almost 30, over 30 years.
imagine what the world would
And yes,
be at Walt Disney. Oh my gosh.
exactly. But he died one of the richest men. He died the fifth richest person on the earth, on the planet, because he
Yeah.
stuck to his dream and he stayed with it. He had that perseverance and he made his dreams come true. And yes, people think that, oh, we live in a modern age technology and all that, but technology hasn't somehow magically cut the time of dream making. It doesn't mean you don't need to have perseverance. Things would be a little bit better now with somebody like Walt Disney in the digital age, but not really, because you can still fail. You can still fail in the digital age. Like technology that has done nothing to eliminate failure. You still have to put in the time. You still
Mhm.
have to put in the hard work, and you still have to fight for your dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a good takeaway for the listeners when you're feeling like crap, like stories like that. Henry Ford too, he went bankrupt 3 times before Ford
Yes.
Motor Company happened. Imagine like the world without Fords, the Ford Transit van that basically like is the backbone of the British blue collar industry. It would just
Yes,
be a different world. So it's like if you have a passion and you have a dream and you're out there and you feel like you're failing all the time, like keep going because you could be Henry Ford or Disney, the next one, and change that world with something,
yes.
whatever that is. One's cartoons, one's a vehicle. And it doesn't have to be some lofty vision either. Just whatever your passion is could radically alter society, the world, or, make things a better place. So I'd love it, like our viewers to take that away and always remember Walt Disney and Ford when you feel like crap and you feel like giving up, just keep going.
Yes, they failed, and then through their failure, they found their success.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to know more about me and my story, DanielleBrazant.com, www.daniellebrazant.com. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, and what's the name of your book again? Just give us one more round of the name so they can find it on
Maximizing. My
Amazon.
book is available for sale. You can find it on my website, and it's available for sale on Amazon.com. So, maximizing your potential, how to start the journey towards true happiness in life.
Great. And
And
we'll put the links below as well to those if viewers want to go to them. Well, thank you, Danielle. It's been awesome having you on. I really enjoyed our chat.
I did. This was fun. Just like two girlfriends chatting. I love it.